I hiked Mount Adams last summer. I left from the Upper Works Trailhead. That's the main southern access point for the high peaks. And at the very beginning, I kind of slowed down, even before the trailhead, to gawk at these huge blast furnace ruins that are there. And there's a bunch of historical markers now since the Upper Works Trailhead was rebuilt by the DEC. I always knew that there was some kind of factory or mine there, but really not much more than that. It turns out there was a whole town there, the ghost town of Tahawus, from someone who grew up there. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And from SciTech Business Solutions, training and consulting services to help businesses grow. More information at citec.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, May 1st. Goodbye, showers. Hello, flowers. First up, today marks the start of spring turkey hunting season and open season for a variety of freshwater fish. According to the Department of Environmental Conservation, turkey hunters can harvest up to 2 bearded turkeys this month, as long as they come from different wildlife management units. Hunting is permitted from a half hour before sunrise until noon each day until May 31st. On the water, it's open season for walleye, northern pike, pickerel, and tiger muskellunge through March of next year. Hunters and anglers looking to take advantage of the spring season must have valid licenses, or they could face fines or jail time. History is all around us, but sometimes it can be hard to see unless you know what to look for and where. Today, the story of a town built deep in the Adirondack wilderness. It's not there anymore because it got picked up and moved somewhere else. Anna Williams-Bergen has this North Country at Work story.
During World War II, the U.S. used titanium to strengthen the outer shells of its warplanes. But this important material proved hard to come by.
The United States was having difficulty getting titanium, and the richest strike of titanium at that time was in the Adirondack Mountains.
That's Joan Burke. She's the director of the Newcomb Historical Museum. That titanium was in the middle of the Adirondack wilderness, just south of the high peaks. But it was wartime. Burke says the government was willing to make mining it worth a company's time, to the tune of $5 to $8 million.
The U.S. government made a huge investment, and National Lead Company took that investment and built the mine.
National Lead bought the land in 1941 and started building a community called Tahawus. The first task was making it into a place they could mine, clearing trees, building roads, and bringing in electricity. And they needed workers. National Lead started recruiting across the East Coast, including in Ogdensburg, where Burke's father worked in a paper mill.
The story in my family was that some of the recruiters stayed outside these plants and just proposed much better salaries than anybody could have gotten anyplace else. They had to give them better salaries because they were giving up their lifestyles to go to some place that was really remote.
The strategy worked. By around 1946, Tahawus had about 1,000 residents. To get there today, you have to drive down a winding, potholey dirt road outside Newcomb. It's just a few minutes from Upper Works, a popular southern trailhead for high peaks hiking. These days, Burke says, Tahawus isn't much to look at.
Okay, across the river now is a fairly large hill, almost a mountain of rock that wasn't there before. It's across Lake Samford. It used to be Samford Lane. Across the bridge, you would find a store, a garage, and several houses.
You would have found a settlement tucked between all these mountains, bursting with life.
It was a close-knit community because everything was close. My family lived in a 6-family apartment. There were several apartments near us. It was not what most people think of as a mining town. We did not live in decrepit buildings.
Tahawus was densely populated, but it was also almost completely secluded. That didn't mean it was boring. Burke says town life was busy with a YMCA and lots of activities for children and adults alike.
As a child, I never went any place that I didn't know all the people I met. I mean, I had many, many parents, and everybody looked out for children. It was comforting. Maybe that says it all.
Plus, residents had forests, mountains, and the Hudson River in their backyards.
It's the Adirondacks. I mean, it's quiet. We were like 10 feet from the wilderness, and we could do anything. I mean, we often walked, not on a highway or not on a sidewalk. We walked on trails to get to things. We think of Newcomb now as remote, but Newcomb is on a highway. In Tahawus, there's one way in, one way out.
National Lead owned all the homes in Tahawus, so every family had someone who worked at the mine. Burke remembers the familiar whistle that signaled shift change 3 times a day. Mining and processing titanium meant there was dust on everything, everywhere. Burke says the best places to live were those furthest away from the mine.
Our apartment house was the last one to be constructed, and so we were far away. The big thing was my mother could hang out clothes without having them get dusty.
Almost as quickly as Tahawus was settled, it disappeared. National Lead had found a new, rich strike of titanium that ran right underneath parts of the community. If they were going to mine it, everyone had to get out of the way. In 1963, nearly all of the buildings at Tahawus were picked up and moved to nearby Newcomb.
They moved 60-some homes. They moved 5 apartment buildings. They moved 2 churches. They moved the store. I mean, it just kept going. You know, one of the apartment houses was too big. They sliced it, and they did it with chainsaws. They just cut it in half. It was done terrifically fast.
The public bridge that takes you over the water to Tahawus is out, so you can't even get to where it once was. From across the water, Burke says the area is unrecognizable. The few buildings that couldn't be moved were buried in a massive hill. Under the earth sits the YMCA and a school, built just a few years before the move. Trees have grown back where there used to be roads and houses. Burke still remembers her childhood here vividly, but she says it's hard to come back. Now she can't even orient herself in a place she used to know like the back of her hand.
It's difficult to think about this because you can't go back and you can't even stand next to that location because everything has been moved.
The mine at Tahawus eventually stopped being economically viable. It closed for good in 1989. Today, a stone company owns the land, but the legacy of Tahawus is still visible, if you know where to look. Most of the homes moved out of Tahawus still stand in Newcomb today. For North Country Public Radio's North Country at Work project, this is Anna Williams-Bergen in Newcomb.
North Country at Work is a long-running project of NCPR that collects photos and stories about working life in our region. If you have a work story you'd like to share, email us work@ncpr.org. And actually, today, North Country at Work is in Indian Lake, gathering stories in the central Adirondacks. So we can't wait to hear what Anna comes back with. Music today by the Saranac Project of Saranac Lake and Greg Cornell of mighty Chemung County. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.